There was a point where you were considering quitting as a friendship coach.
I remember being at a book club with a group of fancy, intelligent, ambitious women. The single greatest factor that's going to have an impact on your overall wellness and well-being is the quality of your relationships, not your income or your marital status.
Welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb, a community of folks like yourselves who are getting ready and staying ready for their next chapter. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about what about your friends? Okay, I'll save it because today we are hearing from a woman who is committed to helping women navigate adult friendships. She is a PR agency owner, licensed educator, author, and friendship coach. She is also the founder of Friend Forward, a community for modern women who want to create and maintain better female friendships through private coaching, workshops, podcasts, and private counseling. Her work has been mentioned on NBC, HuffPost, The Washington Post, and so many more. Danielle, Bayard, Jackson, welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I am too, because if there are so many topics that we cover on Come Back with Erica Cobb, and some are for some people and not for others, but everyone has friends or friendly relationships. So I'm really excited to talk to you. And first, I want you to explain to people what a friendship coach actually is. What does it entail?
I appreciate you starting with that because when I share with people that that's what I do, I definitely get side eye or people who are like, "Oh, that's cute," you know. But the same way that you would, when you're an entrepreneur, you're like, I think I need to bring in a business coach, or you are in a relationship and you're like, I think we need a tune-up. We need to see somebody. We applaud those efforts. Hey, you realize you need support, you go and get help. That's so wonderful. But there are very few resources to support you in your platonic relationships. And I think it makes me sad because research tells us that the single greatest factor that's going to have an impact on your overall wellness and well-being is the quality of your relationships, not your income or your marital status. So determining like your physical, emotional, and mental health, it all comes down to quality relationships, not necessarily romantic. So if that's the case, why can't we normalize seeking support for how you relate to other people platonically? And so women will come to me. I mostly work with women. They'll come to me if they need help with making new friends. Let's say they went to a new city and they're trying to figure out how to get plugged in. Another common one is feeling like they do have friends, but that those relationships are not satisfying. But it's like, are you complaining if you say that your friendships don't totally satisfy you, but you need to tell someone because you want more connection? Or when women want to have a conversation around releasing a friendship or having a hard conversation. So they'll bring me in, we work through it. And a lot of them have said that it's been a game changer. And so for me, so far, it's been a really great journey.
I love this concept because I think it is so true. What's the famous saying I just heard again from Bob Marley? Actually, Deepak Chopra just said this to us last week about the Bob Marley quote that the poorest man in the world, or the rich man could be the loneliest person in the world. Poorest man in the world is the rich man. And it had to do with the idea of being so alone in this bubble and all that you have is money. So that makes you poor. And when we think about the enrichment that relationships truly bring into our lives, it's undeniable. And also we have to think about it in a multifaceted way because some people aren't in romantic relationships. Some people choose not to be in romantic relationships, and friendships are definitely a choice. So when I'm thinking about what you do, and you started off by saying that people side eye you, I'm thinking about it in a comeback vein. And I understand that this is kind of a comeback situation for you too, because there was a point where you were considering quitting as a friendship coach. So tell me about that point in your life and what made you decide that this is actually the path you should stay on.
Yeah. So with the whole theme of comeback, that's totally been my life for the past couple of years. I was actually a high school English teacher for 6 years. And then I heard the girls with the drama between classes.
Mm.
And so when I left the classroom after that time, I got into public relations. And I'm thinking foolishly, oh, I'm leaving that drama behind. I'm not working with teenagers anymore. And then I learned that, adult women, we've got our stuff too. And that's when I had an aha moment of, man, at every stage of womanhood, we're trying to figure out, how do I navigate these relationships with my friends? How do I do this? And so I went home one night, I went searching on Amazon, and just out of curiosity, I looked up friendship books just to see if there were any resources. And at the time, of the few search results that came back, all of them had to do with friendship for kids. And I thought, oh, is this what we think of friendship? That if you're a child, of course, you need some guidance, but if you're an adult, you should have it figured out. And there's like shame around having issues with your friends, or we don't seek support because we're supposed to look like we have it together. And so that's when I was like, I think I'm gonna be a friendship coach. And I Googled it. It wasn't really a thing. There are psychologists who kind of sandwich friendship between a list of other things they can help you with, but to just specialize in this. And so I remember being at a book club with a group of fancy, intelligent, ambitious women. And I said, I think I'm going to be a friendship coach. And man, those crickets in the room. Okay. It was just like, they tried to be supportive, but you could tell they were kind of, skeptical. Like, I've never heard of this. So no one really has a frame of what that looks like. And so, I tried to get it off the ground, and I'm introducing this new concept to people. People have preconceived ideas like, oh, so you work with kids. And for a couple months, I just couldn't get people to take me seriously. And I very much considered letting it all go. Even though some people were like, this was very helpful to me, the masses weren't taking it seriously. And I was considering, I said, by the end of the month, I'll make a decision. Maybe I'll go back to teaching, whatever. And one video went viral on TikTok. And I mean, it just blew up. I mean, everything took off from there. It was like multiple viral videos after that. And I just kind of, put my head down and was like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And fast forward, and I've gotten incredible opportunities to speak for, the NFL. They've brought me in to speak to the players' wives about making friends because their husbands are on the road, so a lot of things you wouldn't think about, but there's no one serving those groups. And so, I mean, it really was a comeback because I was discouraged, prayed about it, and it looks like this is my path. And so I'm really grateful.
Wow. I have a feeling that our time is going to be up, and I'm going to be like, oh, wait, I have 2 more hours because I have so many questions. Comeback community, you are listening to Comeback with Erica Cobb. I am speaking with friendship coach Danielle Bayard Jackson. So Danielle, this is going to be a question that a lot of people have already asked themselves in their head, because I know I do this. I'm just going to admit, but anytime someone says that they're an expert on something, I'm like, how does that thing manifest in their own lives? So tell me, because you put a great emphasis on the power of female friendships. So how have those relationships manifested in your personal life, and how does that play into how you're able to help other women as a friendship coach?
I'm going to be really frank with you. I've had people ask, like, how are you, so effective in this space? What is it, And I think they expect my answer to be something like, well, I just have had great girlfriends my whole life, and I just want to share the joy. But it's really because I used to be a really bad friend. I have been a mean girl. I have broken girl code, whatever that means to you, on multiple levels. I have been insecure. I have ghosted women when I didn't really know what to say. I've done all the things, and I have seen firsthand how that impacts your life. Not having strong friendships, or they're only transactional, or you're being selfish, and how that manifests itself in your life. And so, that was back in high school, but a lot has changed since then. And that is the root of my passion. And what I do now is because I was getting it so wrong. And so now I feel like I'm like the ghost of Christmas future for women. And I'm just like, no, get it together, And so I think a lot of my personal friendships are strong because of that, because I know what it's like on the other side. I do try to take my advice in my own insights. I learn a lot of new research every week. I'm learning and reading, and I try to apply it in my life. And so, my friends, they'll get me together. If I don't text back because I got caught up in something, playfully they're like, okay, friendship coach, now you said you text me back now, and so I'm human, I've had to trick myself into little things. I come up with little hacks like, I'm forgetful. And so, if a friend's telling me about a big appointment she has next week, as she's telling me, I'm typing it into the calendar for next week so that it alerts me to tell her, hey, how did it go? And she's like, oh my God, you remembered? I'm like, yeah, totally. I totally remembered, so I'm learning a lot. I think my friendships are better for it. And it's just been really beneficial for me personally.
I really appreciate you starting out by acknowledging that the reason why you're effective at this point is because you have gotten it not quite right, or sometimes, frankly, wrong, when it comes to friendships. Because I think that is always to me, it's the common denominator for people who are helping other people facilitate themselves through the world. Because for instance, my brand is comeback, and there's this illusion that like I've come back. But the truth is, the reason why I can continue to have these conversations is because I'm always coming back, like there's always going to be something, fortunately or unfortunately, to come back from. So by you having such a diverse depth of knowledge, and you touched on some of the things, in terms of maybe breaking girl code, whatever that might mean to you, entertaining toxic relationships or transactional relationships. These are all identifiers that in our heads we're going through like, oh, that was the situation with this person. That was the situation with that person. But you also started to touch on the idea of, oh, booked and busy. And you say this on your website about how when you started your PR agency, it really got that boss babe, booked and busy, that realizing that high achieving women are some of the loneliest. And it's very difficult for high achieving women to make friends at all. Why do you think that is? And how can you kind of circumvent that if you're trying to be a boss babe who has other boss babe friends?
Yeah. Oh my, first of all, thank you so much for leaning into this aspect of it, because, this is my thought based on what I've seen, based on research about, our tendencies and things like that. There's a couple things. First of all, I think whenever people hear that someone's hiring a friendship coach, I think many of us picture the socially awkward wallflower. And while that person is still on my roster, I think they'd be surprised to learn that most of the women I work with, I'm talking maybe 75% of the women I work with, are charismatic, successful, funny women that if you just looked at them from the outside, you'd be like, what? I mean, how is she needing help with friendship? But it's because we know how to do all the things, but is it meaningful? And so by that, I mean, and I think the patriarchy has something to do with this, but, we're told that our value is in being partnered, there's celebrations for that and finding that and hitting that milestone. And so we tend to put that in the forefront. We are told that, women should be bosses, especially, modern day feminism, like you can do it all. And so we put that at the forefront. No one's celebrating us for having had strong friendships for 10 years. No one's, patting us on the back when we work through something really hard with a girlfriend. It's expected that you have friends. And the extent, unfortunately, of the public conversation around friendship is you either have friends or you don't. And if you don't, what's wrong with you? That's the extent. So a lot of us have quote unquote friends, but they're not serving us, those relationships. We're unhappy. I think high achieving women, we're doing all the things. And so friendship, we tend to push to the margins of our lives. And I'll get to it when I have time for that, or I don't have time to brunch right now. I got things going on. And so we even look at friendship as something that I'll get to instead of something that's truly essential. I think that there's shame around getting help because, I mean, the woman who's in the picture with a bunch of other girls, I mean, it's like a testament to her likability. She's doing something right. She must be fun and cool. Ooh. So if I don't have that, what does it say about me and what I can offer? Because I don't have that. So it's like, we've got to walk around fronting like I've got 10 girlfriends and we like go on vacation together. And for many women, it's just not true. And so I think with high achieving women, the reason they seek me out is because they're strategic in pretty much every other area in life. Mm-hmm. And they bring that same attitude, like, okay, I want to figure this out because I need to be more satisfied in my friendships. What do I need to do? Like, tell me what to do. Tell me how to trim the fat. Tell me if there's, help me understand if there's some issues with me I need to let go of. Maybe certain expectations of friendship are unrealistic. And so we talk about that and they attack it very strategically. And so, yeah, high achieving women, we have our set of issues, but friendship is one of them. And I think it's time we start, being open about that and not having shame around sometimes struggling in that arena.
God, I love this conversation. I'm as you're speaking, I'm just all of these scenarios and not even specific people, but a type of person is coming to my head as you're speaking because I know a lot of high achieving women, and I think that one of the things that really gets in the way, and I'm not an expert, but this is just me observing and kind of making a judgment on this. But one of the things that gets in the way for a lot of these women is that they are so magnetic. So they attract everything. And I think it's difficult to decipher what is real sometimes in the moment from what isn't when you are so busy in all of the other aspects of your life. So if you're a person who walks into a room and 10 people are automatically coming over to speak with you, and you're calling these people friends, even if you're loosely just saying it like as an associate, I can see how building deeper, more sustainable friendships might be more difficult because there's so much traffic in your lane. Now, that's
I
just
love
me
that.
kind of stepping back and being like, I see this, I can identify this, but I don't know if that's like the big issue.
That's a great thought about, just having this magnetism. And so because of that, you've got so much going on and how you decipher it. That's a wonderful thought. And I think there's totally a lot of that going on too. There's this framework by a friendship expert. Her name is Shasta Nelson, and she's developed something called the frientimacy triangle. And her thought is that in order to have depth in your friendships, you need three things: positivity, consistency, and vulnerability. And with high achieving women, a lot of those things are threatened because of who we are and what we do. So in terms of positivity, sometimes we're stressed because we got a lot going on. So maybe not every interaction with the friend is positive because we're stressed, or maybe we use them to talk about business, but we're not talking about just the things that bring us joy because we're on. I'm wondering if consistency is affected because we've got other things to prioritize right now. And so in terms of like really going in deep with a conversation with a friend and slowing down, we don't have time for. And then vulnerability. If I'm an alpha woman and I do all the things and I find a lot of my identity in being able to conquer and to execute and achieve, then, vulnerability, yes, I'm definitely as capable as the next person, but maybe it doesn't totally come natural to me, or I don't lead with it because I'm used to being self-sufficient. And now you want me to kind of admit certain weaknesses. And so the very things that are required of depth sometimes can be tricky for women who are high achieving because of all the other things that we have going on in our lives and a lot of our mentalities and strengths and things like that. Now, are we capable? And there are high achieving women like living their best life with their friends and they are fulfilled. Yes. But I think those are some of the factors that are our specific challenge in forming great friendships.
Comeback community, you are listening to Danielle Bayard Jackson, who is a friendship coach on Comeback with Erica Cobb. We are asking her all the friendly questions. Now, okay, here's my thought. Here's my thought on not only being high achieving, but you are also a wife and a mother. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So I'm like, girl, you gotta let them know because we on podcast. No. So I'm looking at someone like you because although I am married, I don't have children, which I know throws a whole nother variable in the equation. So how do you balance, and what's the appropriate amount of time that you as a entrepreneur, wife, mother should be allocating to building and sustaining friendships? I know it's not like an exact science, but I grew up in a household where my parents were like, we don't have friends, we have y'all.
Yes. Oh, first of all, let me digress for a second. I recently made a TikTok. Okay. So I'm on TikTok at The Friendship Expert, and I made this video. I did not truly expect to do so well. It had 500,000 views, but I was breaking down why sometimes the way that we were mothered affects how we even approach female friendship. So that was one of them right there. What you just said, you don't need friends. Like, we got friends. Y'all are our friends, ha ha ha. But if I see that my parents don't prioritize, getting together with other people and forming connections outside of our home, what model do I have for doing that myself? So that's just something to think about. But with that being said, that makes me super aware of how I'm modeling that for my kids. Am I showing them, well, mama's going to go hang out with her friends, and I don't have mom guilt around it, because I tell myself, no, they need to see me go out and hang with friends and have a life outside of them. And mommy comes home and she's happy and she's referencing things she did with her friends. You need to see that. And so sometimes that thought helps me to kind of shake any mom guilt. With my husband, he knows that, he benefits from what I do, because I'm always like, oh yeah, go golf with your friends. Like, go do it. Because I know how important it is to his mental, emotional health. Please go do that. And we could talk about, I don't know why golf took 11 hours. We could talk about that, but I want you to go golf. I want you to go in a reasonable time frame to go with your friends. So the family benefits from what I do as a coach. But yeah, it's important that we make that time, stop seeing it as a luxury and see it as something that's necessary. And there's this research, and by the way, I'm going to say that a lot. I notice I'm always like, research says, but it tells us that especially for women, when we come together, we produce higher levels of oxytocin, which helps to combat stress. So we come together because we're stressed. And then when we're talking, communicating amongst each other, that stress goes away. So like quite literally, like I need these women in my life. And so I think as long as we start to kind of prioritize friendship as something we need, as opposed to, it's a nice supplementary thing to a fulfilled life in other areas. If we can wrap our minds around that, I think that will be better for it.
Yes, it is. First of all, it is very important that you and your partner have things that create happiness outside of each other. So I am totally on the same page when it comes to the golf analogy. I do the same thing with my husband. I'm like, yes, because when I'm going to the spa or going out with drinks with my girlfriends, I'm going to be off the radar for 11 hours too. Like,
true. Okay. That's true. You're right.
Yes. Do not, you can call and text, but you may not hear back from me for a while. And that's got to be okay. The same way that it's okay for you, every now and again. But the other thing is I'm thinking really about is, so we know what happens when we get together with our girlfriends, and that we have this opportunity to, relieve our stress. We create a more happy, aesthetic. I know I just had drinks with a girlfriend last night, and I'm like, why? Every time I say, why don't we do this more often? Like every single time. And the truth is, it's like, we're both very busy, but I appreciate that. Like, it's a light bulb moment all the time. So I guess my biggest question is, what would you say is the number one reason for why it is so difficult for adults to make new friendships?
Yes, that if I had to list like the top three, things women come to me for, that's probably number one, is making friends. Even, it's becoming like increasingly one of the most searched things on Google, like how do I make friends? And what I've noticed is typically it comes with some kind of qualifier. So people will ask me, how do I make friends as a new mom? How do I make friends as a military wife? So it's like, for my specific situation right now, how do I do this? And I hope that shows us that we will always be making new friends. If I get married and my husband, brings us into a situation where now I'm trying to figure it out, or I need to quote unquote make friends with his new, his network, and I've got to figure them out. I'm always going to be doing it. The kids grow up and they leave the nest. You got to start over in some aspects. And so, there's a couple things that make it challenging for us. There's some research that says that our social network begins to decrease at the age of 25. And that makes sense, right? Because we're out of college and you were in a space saturated with your peers, and a lot of things were coordinated for you. When we're little, we had recess, like we had a designated time to go play. And in the dorms, we're just hanging out, and you can just walk down the hall and there's other girls hanging out, it's so easy. And then we realize once we leave that space, we've got to manufacture those opportunities for ourselves, but nobody taught us, here's how you do that. And so I think that kind of makes it challenging. I think we tend to get pickier as as we get older.
Yeah.
I've noticed that I think a lot of us are like, well, I know myself. We can break ourselves down. Tell me about yourself. We're going to give you like our Enneagram and our preferences. And trust me, I know this about myself. Here's my trauma. I know what I need. But because of that, I think we sometimes get overconfident and we know what we like and what we don't. And I think it limits us. So even as we're saying, like, I need to make friends, you also are probably sitting on a very long list of what this person probably should have and are probably pretty rigid about it. I think some of that ironically makes it difficult as well. I have some clients who say, well, I feel like it's, too late for me. I'm mid-30s, I'm mid-40s. I think it's too late. And, even logically, that can't be something we hold on to because, if you've been saying that for 15 years, you could have started 14 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those mentalities. A lot of times it's those mentalities that get us stuck. We compare friendships. We think, oh, I'm starting over, but they've had their friends for like 30 years. Well, that's them and their friends. Somebody having a friendship for 10 years is not more valid than your 1 year friendship if she means that much to you. And so I think there's a lot of that mental stuff going on. And then finally, I think it's about what we spoke about earlier about not prioritizing friendship. So if I'm not putting it really on the calendar and you're not either, then it ain't gonna happen. So if we're all walking around here treating friendship like I'll get to it, none of us are getting to it. So I think kind of maybe a combination of those things makes it a little more challenging than it used to be to form new friendships.
Who prioritize? You keep bringing up that calendar, like, and for me, I am a person who has to write it all down. It has to be in the calendar. One, so no one else can schedule where this thing needs to go. So it's like, then it really does become the priority when it's the first thing on the calendar, but also to remember, because like you said earlier, you have a tendency to forget. I'm the very same way, but also, to me, putting something in my calendar is my love language. It's like, this is so important to me that I am blocking out time in my crazy schedule to allocate just to you. So for that reason, you talked about the rigid rules and guidelines. If you don't respect our plans and my time that I allocated specifically to you, that's like a fatal flaw. That's a whole deal breaker.
Yeah. That's a big one. Canceling plans and last minute this and that is hard. And I'm in the middle sometimes because I have some people who are like, well, if I have social anxiety or I have kids or like we can list all the reasons of why we canceled. And that is all valid. And we all need friends who show us grace and they know that life happens. However, if it is a habit, I've noticed that it's not just about canceling, it's a trust issue. Like trust is fundamental in a friendship. But if there have been so many times where you cancel, you back out, it's hard for me to rely on you. Right. And I know that sometimes we minimize it as it's a quirk, people know like I'm flighty. And I get that. But if it's something that is continuous, we have to acknowledge the ripple effects it has on the people in our lives. A lot of time as women, I'm going to come for us because we tend to say, oh, no worries, or, oh, okay, of course. So some of it is us. And I could go into a whole thing about, how we've been conditioned to minimize certain things like that. And we don't want to push back, but oh, no worries. But there are worries. There are many worries about you canceling for the 6th time, but we don't want to create drama. So we don't say anything. And I'll tell you, one friend did it to me maybe 3 years ago. I canceled last minute. And I'll be honest, I wasn't in the mood. Like when I signed up for it, I was very into it. And as it happened, it was after work. I was tired. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't think I'll be able to make it. And she said, okay, little disappointed because I moved a lot of things around to see you today, but I understand. And I hope we get to connect, some other time. She wasn't guilting me. She wasn't nasty, but she told me I made, an effort to make this happen. I'm disappointed, but I do look forward to seeing you. I have never done that to anyone since that day. To anyone in 3 years have canceled last minute plans because it left such an impression on me about honoring commitments and how if we don't, it does a little something to your friendship. It frays the edges a little bit. And so I hear what you're saying about that being such a frustrating thing. And I love your comment about that being your love language.
Yeah. I don't know, and people might disagree with this, but I feel like I'm a pretty easygoing person. I don't really care, like at this point, I'm 41. I'm tired. I don't have the energy. Okay. Like, I'm not good with the drama. Like, if you start showing signs of drama, I'm kind of like, okay, you can leave that over there. Not interested. So I'm like, but my time, my attention, like, I am just so, I love you. Like, and I really appreciate you when I'm doing that. And I feel like, I know how other people respond, and there are certain things that are their love language and friendship language to me, and I can see it. But I think your story is it's amazing, really, because most of us just don't want to be uncomfortable, and we want to avoid and no worry the conversation away. And what your friend did was actually give you a gift, because since you're so mindful of not doing that to anyone else, I'm sure that shows up in positive ways in your business, in your other relationships, in yourself. Like,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think, the benefit too of having hard conversations. And, I think, based on our upbringing, a lot of us have different attitudes toward the word conflict, but conflict, it is inevitable. It just means there's tension between us because we have competing desires right now. That's conflict. It's healthy. And so that in that moment, there was a conflict, and she told me she wasn't trying to shame me, or guilt me. She wasn't doing silent treatment. She didn't lie and say no worries, because there was a worry. And she let me know, and she was fine after that. Like, we saw each other again, and it was cool. She didn't, bring it up again or weaponize that against me. And so, we have to make room for conflict. I always say, a lot of female friendships end prematurely because we have a little rift, but I'm not going to say anything. And I assume that she's probably thinking this, and it fades off, instead of just saying, hey, what happened last night? Because what you said made me feel some kind of way. Can we talk about it? And that being cool. And then we move on with our lives together, and it's fine. So, yeah. So, how you just communicated to me, like, oh, time is a big thing for me. If I were a new friend of yours, I'm clocking that in my mind. Like, okay, that's her thing. Maybe I have other friends who are looser. That's acceptable to them. For her, that's a big thing. And so I need to honor that, because it makes her feel some kind of way, especially if it's within my control. I can control and respond to this, appropriately. So I'm glad you said that. And it's about communicating those very things.
I know we're running out of time. I want to make sure, I told you I was going to want to talk to you forever, because I want to address this. Congratulations, I understand, are in order, because you recently signed a book deal to write a book that helps women navigate some of their most common friendship conflicts. So what does that mean to you, especially when other people told you that this wasn't a real career or possibility to be writing a book?
I know, right? It kind of came full. Thank you for that. First of all, it's such a blessing. It came full circle, because I remember when I first decided I'm going to do this. I remember being in a bookstore, and the woman was checking me out in the bookstore, and she was like bringing up my books and making small talk. She was seeing the books I was getting, and she asked me, like, oh, what do you got going on? And I told her, oh, I'm a friendship coach. And I remember distinctly, this was like 4 years ago. She was like, oh, okay, that's a thing. And it was just very condescending. So now when I'm like, she's going to be selling my book, it kind of feels, that's the comeback, Erica, that's the comeback, And so it feels really good. And I think it's necessary. There are, tons of marriage books, parenting books, books on how to parent your dog. which is important. I love dogs, but there's so much. But for friendship, friendship is kind of having a moment. So there's some stuff coming up. But how do I deal when my friend continually cancels on me? What do I do when she's so obsessed with her love life that, I play second fiddle and it's tense? What do I do when she becomes unreliable? What do I do if my friend's a little controlling? And it's all the common ones. What do I do when I feel like I'm the one who's always initiating in the friendship? Like, if I don't get us going, are we going to see each other? I feel like I give more than she does. So like just all those common conflicts. And we want it to be a guidebook to walk you through the top 14 conflicts I've identified in female friendship. And then of course it explores, the other bookends of it, how to make quality friends who you're willing to do conflict with, and then how to release a friendship with grace when it's not serving you anymore. But I've noticed that books on the market right now about friendship, they're either very high level and academic and cerebral about friendship and the social sciences, which is great, or it's very like a cute little article you see online that's like 8 signs you need to let your friends go. And, and it's like, we need something in the middle. Like, give me the research so I understand what this is rooted in. And then also give me like 4 scripts of what I can say when it goes down. Tell me what to do. And so I'm hoping this is a blend of the practical stuff, but also with the social science stuff, so that we can, reconcile our friendships one by one and give female friendship a really good name.
I am, as you're describing all of these scenarios and you're describing exactly what your book, which is, I believe, will be in bookstores in 2024. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited. Yes. It feels so far away, but I'm excited for it.
Girl, it's going to be here before you know it. But also before it even hits bookstores, this is a whole series. It's a whole series.
Tell my publishers that. Yeah. Multiple books.
It's a Danielle Bayard Jackson Fix My Friendship series. I mean, what? It is so obvious. Like, oh my gosh, I would watch that.
That should be like a Netflix show. Am I right? Wink, wink.
I'm telling you, when it happens, you have to reach back out to me and be like, you called this on March 3rd, 2022. I'm telling you, I can see it. I can
claim it.
Girl, this is brilliant. You are brilliant. Please share anything else you would like to share with us. Oh, excuse me. Please share anything you would like to share with our comeback community before you go.
My last little tidbit would just be that friendship takes work. It is not just easy and something that comes naturally. With some people, you have this chemistry and that's great, but friendship itself does take effort and intention. You can have the satisfaction in your friendships that you're looking for. Platonic intimacy is accessible to you if you do the work. I try to put out strategies and tips and things like that, on Instagram at Friend Forward is the name of the business, but everything is really housed on the website at betterfemalefriendships.com. That's where everything lives. And so, when women go over there, they can see the different services. There's coaching. We have a group coaching program, all the things to just support women in their journey toward better female friendships.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Comeback community. You have been listening to Comeback with Erica Cobb, where I have spoken with friendship coach Danielle Bayard Jackson. Please find Danielle, find all of her handles, because we got a lot going on, and I am going to share that with you on my online home, as always, comeback.tv, where you can get the full podcast. But absolutely, girl, I am just blown away. So do you prefer that people follow you at Friend Forward? Do you is it
that's where the friendship stuff is? Because you follow my personal, and it's like friendship stuff, and then it's like random, other things. But at Friend Forward, if you're really looking for more of this, and what we talked about today is really resonating, that's where there's more tips, scripts, and all the other good stuff.
Okay, at Friend Forward, but also follow Danielle, because this has been amazing. I thank you so much for coming on Comeback with Erica Cobb. Please, let's do something again in the future, because I would love to have you on like a panel or round table or something. Like, I would just love to collaborate on something with you. I think you are amazing.
Oh, I so appreciate you. And I would love that. I think it's wonderful that you just dedicated space for us to have this conversation. And I hope it inspires women who are listening to go and take this back to their relationships and keep the dialogue going.
Yes, I appreciate it. I needed to hear some of these things today, so I know so many people in the community did. We appreciate you, girl.
Thank you.
Thank you.